All right, brother, introduce yourself and who are you? What do you do?
Hey man, I'm Danny. I work with Blokes Foundation, but I'm really passionate about seeing people thrive and I put myself in positions where I get a chance to mentor young men with Top Blokes.
Yeah, fantastic, man. How long have you been doing Top Blokes?
About 2 years, I think. Yeah.
What made you want to get into it? Like, other than, of course, seeing people thrive, like, what attracted you to it?
Yeah, I'd been doing a bit of mentorship work myself and being supported in that sense.
Yeah.
And I just found it invaluable to have a impartial support network. And people in your corner. And I wanted to be able to offer that for others and work with young men.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Did you have, like, what's your, like, background? Like, did you study anything for to make this happen?
Yeah, like I'm still in a psychology degree.
Yeah.
So I'm chipping away at that as I go. And youth work qualification. And I've done some work with Lifeline as well on the phones.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Psychology is such an interesting field, hey? Like, I mean, it's pretty much the basis of, I feel like a psychologist is very close to, like, you know, let's say a personal trainer, like, you know, but, you know, for the mind, right? For the exercise the mind.
Yeah, heard. Yeah, I'm pretty committed to trying to take the topic, whatever it may be, beyond just the learning points that we're passionate about delivering and into territory where they feel a sense of personal responsibility and opportunity. We call it upstanding, but to me, it's like taking a more active role in your relationships and being a support for others. So I think all the topics have a through line where they give the boys an opportunity to do that and reflect on their own experiences and how they can help others. Yeah.
What are those kind of topics that you kind of focus on?
So, man, in the first half of the program, they're a little bit more introductory, things that the boys can really relate to and have experienced. And then we lead into stuff that's a little more intimate and like requires the rapport that we've built through that first term with them.
Like what though? Like what are the topics that you usually talk about?
So we talk about pornography, we talk about sexual health, we talk about communication and connection and building strong relationships, both intimate, platonic. There's quite a lot of coverage, bit of ground there.
Yeah, awesome, man, awesome. And what are we here to talk about today with one of those topics, right? We're here to talk about one of those topics. What is that topic we're here to talk about?
Yeah, man, let's dive into sexual health.
Yeah.
So, I wonder, like, what was your sexual health education like? What do you remember those conversations being like? Do you remember having the talk or something like that?
I kind of feel like I had the talk with my dad once in a car for like 5 minutes, and all he said was, just wear a condom. I'm like, it's too late. No, I'm joking. No, but like it's, but that's pretty much what it feels like a very taboo topic to discuss, especially with your parents. It feels a little bit like, too much. And then being in school, right? Like I only vaguely really remember two classes that we did it. We watched this like funky like cartoon. I can barely remember that. Like kids, like I remember us cracking up in class, right? Yeah. And I was like, what the heck? Like, you know, what is this? You know, and we kind of just figured it out, right? We figured out certain things and, you know, but I mean, Top Blokes, of course, is trying to educate that. Like, what's some stuff that you guys are trying to do that, like, is trying to break that down a little bit?
Yeah, similarly, man. Like, I remember, throwing a cassette or a video in and watching something about fertility and you're there with your classmates. It's co-ed. You don't feel particularly comfortable. Yeah, and that was it. I think it was like well satirized sexual education in Mean Girls when the coach is like, if you have sex, you'll get pregnant and die. I think we've come a long way from that fear-based lens of education. To start with, like, we're talking about this prior to the age of consent. So a lot of these kids are getting this information early. That being said, they've probably already, you know, an assumption, but been exposed to pornography and had a few years of yeah, I guess impressions learnt from that.
Yeah. Would you say, like, I mean, not to talk just about sex itself, but like, you know, how social media, of course, not to be like straight to it, but it can be like such a gateway to a lot of sexualized content, right? Without it, probably with some being not intentional, with, you know, influence kind of like people that, you know, are trying to promote this kind of stuff. How are you guys trying to combat that and trying to educate? How do you educate kids to actually decide that I'm not going to listen to this guy on the internet or see this stuff and make judgments from it? You know, I'm going to make my own mind up.
Yeah, I think that really underpins all the work that we do to create a level of self-reflection as to why they have the perspectives they have, where they've come from, be it men of influence in their lives or like social influence, like you said. And yeah, like it really opens the workshop with a bit of an icebreaker. Like it's a lot of the territory they might have covered, discussing STIs and working to destigmatize seeking support, really. But then, I think the way through to get them to think for themselves is creating a space for them to clarify any myths that they've kind of picked up over time, or perspectives they may have heard from others, and giving them an opportunity to voice those and have them addressed by us as mentors, which they've built rapport with us.
I think that just comes down to, because you've got to break that ice to then get into having those conversations about, like, you know, because about having, you know, safe sex and having, you know, making sure that you're not looking at, checking up on your sexual health, like all that kind of stuff, making sure that we're not getting STIs or spreading STIs or like understanding what they are.
Stigma still kind of exists for them where, they'd almost prefer some people to not let others know. Because of the fear of like judgment and ridicule. But we've come a long way from that, hey, and like we try to be quite sex positive and aware that like it's meant to be such a positive experience, right? And it's an opportunity for like deeper intimacy and connectedness when you do have intimate partners to have conversations about like preventative measures and conception and contraception and all of that, and trying to inspire them to recognize that that's something you can do from your initial relationships. It's not something that you need to kind of defer responsibility to if you're in a heterosexual relationship, your female partner, or any other type of relationship to the other person. It's something that you mutually can work with together.
Awesome.
It brings you closer.
How do you feel like the younger adults these days are recepting to, you know, this education? Are they willing to it? Are they, you know, they still kind of feel like, you know, they're a little bit, you know, shy to talk about it? Or are they more open to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, I've got a mate who, and rather than sharing their experience from, you know, and their stories through their own lens, because it's a little more comfortable to do that, or hypothetically speaking, if I was asking on the behalf of someone else. But I think that the fact that like there are a lot of commentators in this space and online means that they're probably a little more comfortable with the territory. And I think it's more us maybe as mentors, teachers, parents that need to get a little more comfortable with uncomfortable conversations, because it reads right to a young person whether or not you can hold that space for them. And
this is a question I was going to ask. Say, for instance, they've got a parent at home that, you know, has a teenager, whether it's a female or male.
Yeah.
How do they approach that conversation? What do you think, like, you know, because you're a mentor, you've kind of been doing this a bit to kind of understand or how to break that ice. But of course, as a parent, it's like, for one, I don't even want to know when my daughter gets older about that kind of stuff. It's just that protective thing, right?
Yeah,
but you've still got to have that conversation. How do you, any tips of, like, you know, how these parents can, like, approach that?
Yeah, well, I guess our workshop is a one-time thing. We're with them over the course of 2 terms, so they have a lot of opportunity to follow up if the topic resonates with them or becomes relevant. But just like that, if at home, or you're a teacher or someone in a young person's life, like, it's not meant to be the chat, it's not meant to be a one-time thing, it's meant to be like a relationship where there's enough comfortability that someone, I think, feels comfortable to come to you when they need to, for your perspective. And I think that's something that you develop with time, right, and trust, and working to repair that if you feel like it's not there, because it's so important that young people do feel they have people in the corner.
So do you feel like there's a lot of guilt and shame that sometimes comes with, like, you know, trying to open up about, like, a sexual encounter that, like, to a parent or to something that, like, they've had a bad experience, right? Do you feel like those emotions are something that kind of drives maybe decisions that, you know, maybe lead them down a wrong way, rather than trying to find a sound or an appropriate kind of guidance that they need?
Yeah, we set the standard, I suppose, by asking them and putting it to the guys, like, do you think that you have an ethical obligation to, like, share with someone that you have contracted an STI, if that were to happen? And that's an interesting chat, and hearing them and their perspectives, but also, like, I think once they hear ours, that it is, and it's something that we should be doing actively, and the value that can bring in terms of bringing you closer, and feeling more, I guess, initially, obviously you're embarrassed, but it would bring someone into a greater sense of, like, integrity and feeling like they're being honest with others. So I think that everyone wants that. Boys want that, and I think that we show them what that looks like.
What we might do is we'll tidy up this beard just a little bit, just under here, just clip it down and stuff like that. While we're wrapping this up here, what's some takeaways that you could suggest to keep your sexual health healthy?
The boys, I guess, walk away from our workshop, even though it's a one-time chat, with an awareness of how simply to even wear a condom properly. And I guess that is the takeaway, right? That as a male, you do have responsibility for contraception and prevention of STIs in that relationship, and condoms are the best way to do that as a male. I guess another one would just be, as I've said, like, normalizing having conversations that can feel compromising and are quite intimate, especially when you are sexually active, but also, like, if you're a young person before that stage, like, with someone you do feel comfortable with. I guess the third one is just, have an awareness of what a checkup looks like, and once you are sexually active, like, get them regularly, every 3 to 6 months, or every sexual partner. I don't think media, like Shameless, did a good job of representing what that looks like. The boys come to the table with some incorrect assumptions. They're going to get probed and have a horrible experience getting a checkup, but it's not like that at all. So,
I've had a checkup. Just because I've never actually had one, and I'm married as well too. So I did one, and it's just a blood test, and it was pretty easy, pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and they're pretty instant results too. which is great. So
yeah, man. And like often it's just a urine test depending on what you're getting done. A blood test as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I did the urine test as well too. That was another thing. Yeah, remember that. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, which is great.
Yeah.
We haven't got a mirror, but it's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
There's a mirror over there. You can have a little check. If you don't like it, don't come back in the chat. I'm joking. All good.
Back to a salon.
It's been a pleasure to chat to you as well.
Yeah,
it's great. I love what Top Blokes does. Are you continuing to keep doing what you're doing, keep inspiring those kids?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love doing the work I do. So for sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Thanks, man.